Pretty direct edit to do today. Not a whole lot of complexity going on here, but let's give it a whirl. All right, so what I normally start with is switching this down to a linear response, which will get it as close as, Capture One will to giving us a flat curve. And popping over to the histogram and exposure and all that kind of good stuff. You can see that while we're pushed pretty far to the left here, it's not crisis mode as far as underexposure. The reason for that is I tend to expose for highlights as opposed to an overall, exposure, because I can really easily bring up the darker exposure as opposed to trying to recover blown out highlights along here, or the beak is obviously particularly prone, and even the eye can get really blown out sometimes, depending. So my auto adjust is set to do the levels and the rotation. The rotation is not going to do anything on this photo, but the levels should have a pretty dramatic effect, which it does. So that already is looking pretty good. This is uncropped 840 millimeter with the 600 prime and the 1.4 teleconverter on it. So ISO is, essentially as low as you can go, and handheld at a 500th of a second. So I was really close to this bird, obviously, because this is maybe a 4-inch bird in real life, and that's probably being generous, and maybe weighs ounce and a half, maybe two. So small bird, and I was pretty much at minimum focusing distance at that point. And so what I like to do, and this is a me thing, but as you zoom in there, you can see that there is an iris. So what I like to do is start with the dodge. Okay, go in, brighten that up a little bit. Just whatever the auto settings are, 2/10 of a step. Let's increase our flow just to make things a little faster. Okay, so that's in there. That's good. Alright, we're not going to play around with this too much because we start blowing that out and it's going to get all sorts of aberrations and stuff. So now we go along here. Now this is going to be way overdone to start. We'll fix it. So there we go. Like I said, way overdone. Okay. I'm going to immediately go back and take that out because that just looks terrible regardless of what we do. Okay, so now we can go down to this and pump our dehaze up a little bit. Okay. Then one of the good parts about Capture One, which obviously I'm not sponsored or anything, it's just what I like to use. I use Lightroom for years and years and years. Is you have the layer effect, and so you can turn on or off these little layers here to different degrees. And so blown up, yeah, it looks way over. Well, not even there. It's not that overdone there actually. So that actually looks pretty good to me. It's a subtle difference, but it definitely matters because there's nothing, and there we go with something. So it just adds a little depth, a little, I don't know, humanity to it, which is an odd thing to try to put onto a bird, but it is what it is. And it's part of the reason why I shoot the way that I do without hiding, because I'm not using a hide here. I just wait for the bird to come in. Is I'm trying to get that look. It's very obvious that she can see me here. This is a female house finch, and she's looking at me, and you can see the trees behind me and the reflection, and all sorts of stuff. It's cool. That's part of the deal for me, anyway. And so then what I like to do before I start fooling around with color and things like that, because it'll change how I do things, is I'll go in and put a radio filter, radio mask rather, and you hold shift, okay, and you pull it out, and this will increase the distance that the gradient will travel. So we're at no masking here. I could just turn this on. So we're at no masking all the way to 50%, all the way to 100%. Okay, and so instead of getting a centered, it's all the same, boom, really quickly effect, by focusing it there, A, you're drawing the eye obviously, and B, it doesn't look as forced. Now, this will be dramatic to start, but as we're looking at it, it will become less so. All right, so there we go. There's that. Zooming in again just to make sure that we're, doing well with all of that. I think we are. Now, I like this break in the bushes and trees behind it. That's the gray sky that was not particularly wonderful today, but it is what it is. So, honestly, one could leave it right there if that was, the desire. And I may very well do that. But I think we have some color cast here that we need to play with. So for right in here. Okay, so the green there is a little irritating. We'll see what happens when we do that. Okay, so that's selected. This is the magic brush, which selects based on a pixel and I believe a color thing. I'm not doing a lot of specific how this all works because A, I'm not sure I fully understand it myself. It's more of a visual thing. And B, Capture One does a really good job of putting out information about their products. If you go watch David on, I think that's his name, he's the trainer and does a lot of webinars and things like that for Capture One, Phase One, whatever. All right, so as I was talking, you could see that I switched the saturation down just a smidge, and that then takes it from, it's a subtle difference, but it does matter. So, boom, 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 boom. So, now depending on if we were getting color cast onto a more colorful bird, obviously I wouldn't be able to just drop the saturation on that, which obviously isn't all the way down. We're still retaining a lot of detail, a lot of range, it doesn't look unnatural. But yeah, so that's how I deal with anything that's grayish, whitish, whatnot. And again, just so you can see, that's a lot more. So let's see whether we like that. Okay, so there's undone and redone. Again, subtle is an overstatement with a lot of these tools. Okay, so we're going to leave it at that, and then let's do another filled adjustment layer. Normally I would name all these, but I'm not going to do that today. And let's hop over to the color panel and see if we can fix this green a little bit, because it's not exactly how it looked outside. So generally I find, at least with the Sony conversion, the color veers towards the yellow. So pumping the green towards the blue a little bit, and again, I'm not talking huge amounts here. We're talking 8 clicks. So 8 I think. And then saturation, let's see what. Again, we only have the green selected here throughout the color range. And the mask. Alright, well, whatever. And it is definitely, yeah, okay. Anyway, I don't know why that was doing that. So, it's a little saturated now, but let's take it down just a notch. See, the other thing with Capture One is that you can sit there and say, all right, I'm going to pump the saturation up, and it's far more delicate than one would think. Then the lightness, and you can click a bunch of times, all right? So that makes that pop out a little bit more without fooling too much more with the radio filter, or the radio mask rather, because we don't want that. We don't want it to be completely darkened out, but we do want the contrast between the bird and the background. So in any case, that's about it. At this point, drop it into Topaz, though it doesn't really need it. And I don't know what the hell that was, but whatever. And just smooth it out, and it'll sharpen up a bit. But so there we go. We've got the before, doom 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 doom, and the after. So it's not a huge change, but it's an important one. It's a subtle one, and I think it works. All right, so in any case, thanks very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll probably have another one posted tomorrow. All right.